through hard times when you're the business owner, typically you're that rock or that foundation for everyone else that says, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. No one's allowed to see you sweat. But then on the inside, I was feeling like, holy shit.
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch other people about it.
Matt Nicholls, thanks
Great.
for coming on the podcast, man.
Great to be here.
Been following you on the interwebs, on Instagram or something from a distance, and like you guys do a good job at like, you know, putting out what you're working on and updates and things like that. So I think that's really good. And so yeah, been wanting to kind of get you on for a while. So I think we've been chatting on or DMing each other.
Yeah, no, it's been good, and it's nice to be here and pretty pumped to have a chat about the building industry, and really stoked there's a platform for us builders to have a good yarn and some real talk about what it's like out there.
Yeah, man, 100%. I think there isn't a better time than right now, right, to just shed some light on what you guys are going through and how to make everyone better and all that sort of thing, you know. Real conversations are obviously really important. But before we sort of dive too deep into that, tell me a little bit about your kind of history. Like, where did you grow up? What was your childhood like when you were a young fella?
So from Auckland, and I guess how it all got into building is my dad was a painter. Before that, I guess like I was always a bit of a little workaholic, and you know, started working in a surf shop at 14, sweeping, shaping bays and paper runs and all that sort of stuff. And then every school holidays, I'd be helping Dad as slave labour every school holidays. And so school holidays was just, you know, my introduction into trades. And then at some point, my mum was actually building a house, and my uncle Ted, who's a builder, got me as the labourer on site.
Cool.
So I would have been 17 at the time, and you know, you show up first day and pouring footings, and the loading your wheelbarrow up full of concrete. And I remember losing a barrow over a plank, and you got all these scary, rough-looking concreters saying "box of beers," and like that was my intro into building with Uncle Ted. And then, like I said, my dad's was a painter, and for a company that he did a lot of work for, there was an apprentice opportunity. That was with Tony Pexton at TP Builders.
Cool.
So I jumped in with them to start off my apprenticeship. And I was with them for a year or so, and their crew was quite big at the time, and those guys are awesome. But I was finding I was on the broom a bit more than I wanted to be back then, and another opportunity came up with these two old chippies at Shoreline Builders, Richard Emery and Chris Bulkley. They're a funny duo, but it was basically just them and me, so I couldn't have landed in a better spot to learn from. And yeah, did my apprenticeship with them just on the shore.
And what was your experience like being an apprentice with those guys? Were you the only apprentice? Were there any other apprentices there? And what was the sort of culture of the company back then?
So for a large majority of my apprenticeship, it was just me and them. And then we did bring in another apprentice later on when I was sort of third or fourth year or something. And then you sort of become more of that leading hand type scenario on site, and you got the other apprentice working with you more than anything.
And what type of projects did you guys work on most of the time?
We did everything from renos, extensions, and a really big new build for the last year or so of that. So pretty good exposure to all different types of projects.
No, that's very cool, man. And so when did you make the decision? So obviously you're working for these guys, you're chipping away. How long did you work for them until you went out on your own?
So that's an interesting transition, and I probably rushed it more than I would now. If I could go back and redo it, I'd do things pretty different. But at the time, I think I finished my apprenticeship, worked for them for a year or so, and then basically turned into Matt the contractor in a van with all my tools, and went off and started contracting to a few people and got a bit more exposure to different businesses, different business owners, and types of projects, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously it's very different, eh? Like being on the tools, running a site or whatever versus running a business. A little bit different, eh?
They're two different worlds. And what happens typically is a guy will come up through his apprenticeship, become like the main guy on site. You turn into an absolute weapon and you think, I could do this. I could do this maybe even better than my boss. And we go through this little transition where we rush through the apprenticeship towards the end, rushing to get into our own business. And then we realise that now it's completely different. There's all these new things we hadn't even thought about. And sometimes you get too busy, you can't even be on the tools. I mean, I started working for myself thinking, oh, this is going to be so good. I'm going to go surfing all the time. Like, as soon as there's easterlies, I'm out west surfing. I won't be at work. That could not be further from the truth. I literally turned into a 6-day-a-week, like a prison sentence to work for a few years. I was just going for it. And I think like it's an interesting process for guys at that point in their career where they're, freshly qualified and they're contracting to a few guys. Like, I would say just slow down, contract to a few different companies, see how they do things, start thinking about how would he price this? Like, you're used to working out the pitch of a roof or how to work out the pitch of that roof, but you haven't thought about how much does it cost for me to pay him to work out what is the pitch of that roof and how to cut that rafter. And so like there's a real shift in your thinking that you don't know you have to do yet, but it's coming. And I think like if you can sit in that freshly qualified contracting stage for a little bit longer and really start soaking things up and fitting in your own little jobs here and there, like a deck, a bathroom reno, whatever, just little jobs that you do by yourself first, like get a few small wins under the belt there and then start thinking about kicking it off with bigger projects.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting, eh? So how would you do it differently if you had to do it again, all over again? Mm-hmm. You put yourself right back there with those guys you work with. Mm-hmm. And so how would you now, you get to do it again, how would you do it differently to kind of set yourself up a little bit better for going out on your own?
So I think it's a real mindset shift that you have to make. And it does come with time, but I'd be thinking a lot more around what I'd say is instead of thinking about how much can I make per hour, you're on top whack on site, how much can I make per hour? I'd shift that to like how much can I make per project or per annum and start trying to see it from a different perspective. How much usable equity can I reinvest back into my company to build a more solid base or foundation to grow my business? Whether that's like in your own skill set, whether that's machinery, plant, branding, uniforms, websites, social media, content, all that sort of stuff. Like I think the people that go really well tend to be able to go without for long periods of time and reinvest back into their businesses. And I think that really shows when you see a company that's flying a few years down the track, but it's pretty hard to go through that initial stage of going without.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty easy to go tick up a brand new Ranger and look the part really quickly, but you could have spent that same money on a digger or something and then charge that out for the next decade. Like everyone's in such a rush to make money quickly that they kind of like overestimate what they're going to make in a year, but then they'll underestimate what their business could do for them over the next decade. And I think there's definitely a lesson in there thinking about, trying to think of the big picture like that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the overall construction industry at the moment, the way people are doing it? Do you feel that people are looking at it with too much with rose-coloured glasses? Do you feel that people are struggling much more than they're leading up, or do you think people are, doing better than you think? What's the? You've got your finger on the pulse. What's the vibe out there?
So it's been an interesting lead up to now. And if we think like we went through COVID, everyone's businesses faced challenges through the lockdowns, and then here, especially in like the northwest of Auckland where I am, we had big impact from Cyclone Gabrielle. We've had crazy price increases through all the materials in the industry, all the suppliers, you know, monthly. You get the whole big list of what's gone up again in price. And between that, we had the supply shortages where no one could get jib. So we've faced some interesting challenges for the last sort of 3 years. And then in the background, interest rates have gone from record lows where everyone was, you know, borrowing money as much as they could, to now interest rates have almost doubled essentially in a short period of time. And there's a lot of jobs that have been priced, even consented, and they're going on pause. So I'm seeing in my network a lot of guys starting to dry up pretty quickly with their jobs, because they're going on hold. And like, let's be honest, people don't give us a super big heads up. You know, typically it's a real short, hey, we've just decided we're just going to pause it just for a bit and come back to this in 6 months when, like, you know, there's not World War III kicking off or, you know, some crazy stuff happening overseas. And I think a lot of the big macro things going on in the background and big buzzwords like recession are now being felt in the building industry.
Yeah. And I noticed that you have put a lot of effort into your sort of how you present yourself online, and like your content looks really good, your branding looks really good, you jump on your website, everything looks very clean. Why did you spend so much time and effort on that? Do you feel like that's been quite valuable?
Definitely. I believe that how you do anything is how you do everything. And you want to be the same person behind the scenes as you put forward to people out in the marketplace. And so if you're a sharp person who wants to do a good job and you're proud of your brand and you're out there pushing that, then I think it's worth spending the time, especially when you get into the more expensive projects. I think people want to see that. In regards to like posting and stuff, like we just live in a world where it's so important on social media. The stuff in front of the camera is like real cringe and awkward as a builder. Like you can yarn about building all day long with people on site, and blah, 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 then you get in front of a camera and you're like, like it just leaves your head. Like you don't even know how to talk about it anymore. So, I mean, I find that real awkward, but I'm just doing it because, you know, like I've got a family to provide for, and, you know, I've got a good reason why I do this, and I genuinely love the building industry, or parts about it anyway. And so you just sort of like push through the hard things. It's like everything good is on the other side of some awkward, hard thing you have to get through. And so I just see it as another example like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And did you see any difference? So I assume, I didn't see it actually before, but I assumed you had like a different, maybe your branding was different on your website, maybe before you did like your video content and stuff like that. Did you see like an obvious change from before you did all that stuff to after in terms of how people perceived you?
Most certainly. And I think it depends on the circles of people you're talking to. Like if you're on Facebook Marketplace, you know, all competing on the lowest price to change a door handle, that stuff doesn't mean shit. But if you're all working in projects that are worth millions of dollars with lawyers and engineers and architects and people that are way smarter than us, then I think it goes a long way to presenting well and just being real onto it.
It probably almost provides confidence to the people working with you that, okay, cool, these guys are legit outfit.
I think so. And I think like even it flows back into everything from your team culture to your guys see you doing that and they're proud to be part of a team that presents like that. And I think like we should all think about our brand and what that means. And that's how people judge us at first glance. So,
Yeah, no, I've been getting into 11 p.m. at night, getting into some comment wars with some people on TikTok. Not really. I'm always really nice in the comment section, but we've put some videos up over the last few weeks, and I think one of the guys, I think it was Henry and might have been Ed as well, were talking about how, you know, you present yourself is really important, and you gotta be, you know, you gotta be professional in the way you present yourself and all that. And then the people in the comments were pretty much just at war, being like, well, it doesn't matter, like what, you know, how nice your hair looks and how good your uniform looks if you can't build. And some of the best builders I know look scruffy, and
but that's true too.
And I say, yeah, you're right. You're both right. You know, that's true. But in today's world, people are, you know, perception is reality, and first impressions are important. As much as we hate it, it is important. And so people will be looking at you. So if you want those premium projects, they're not going to know about the beautiful work that you do. They only can see what they see when they check you out online. And in today's world, yeah, that's probably, they probably don't even know the work they're missing out on if they just sort of stay how they are.
Totally. And like, let's be honest, like that stuff only initially opens the door to get to the table or be part of the conversation, but it is your work and your team that get you the next job. You know, any job you do a really amazing finish on typically leads to another project, sometimes greater than the last, and like that is what you're judged on. So like I say, like the branding really just opens the door and gets you talking to the right people, but there's still a long way to go after that.
Yeah, 100%. It just sort of, opens the door to that. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the challenges out there at the moment. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges you guys are facing at the moment in the Auckland market?
So, Auckland market, I mean, all the chippies out there right now would have priced tons of jobs that are just on pause. So, outside of that, I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of business owners are facing right now is probably, I'd say, mental health is a big one that no one talks about.
And how have you struggled with that, or if you have?
Well, no, and I have. And I actually, for the first time in my life, hit the wall pretty hard at the end of last year. And it's funny because on social media and stuff, everything looks perfect. We all put our highlight reel up there and you just think, fuck, that guy's got everything sorted. Like, everything must be so easy for him. And like, honestly, behind the scenes, it's so different. And we really work hard to operate a business in the construction industry. So anyway, I was pretty much like redlining myself for the last 3 years to get through all the roller coaster that we've been through. And what I mean by that is like, you know, you're working 6 days a week, your evenings, you're just pushing sales, the guys on site, like all the stuff you're doing, right?
All the hats you're wearing.
All the hats that a business owner wears. And then also through hard times when you're the business owner, typically you're that rock or that foundation for everyone else that says, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. And so we have to be like strong to everyone. Like no one's allowed to see you sweat. But then on the inside, I was feeling like, holy shit, I am hitting the wall. And I'd never felt like that. And so work and everything was still going really well. But inside I was feeling like real unhappy. And, you know, us guys, we don't know what to do in that sort of, you know, situation. We don't really talk about our feelings because that's like woo-woo stuff. And, you know, you're a pussy if you talk about how you're feeling. You know, that's what girls do. And it got to the point where I had to do something about it because I was either going to walk away from my business or I had to do something about it. And I do believe that like if you've got something like a problem in your life or anywhere, you just have to hit it head on. You have to go straight towards it and figure it out. And I had to take some of my own advice and just deal with this because I couldn't move on with other things until I did. And so I tried a few things. Like I tried going to a few therapy sessions through the certified builders. They do like 3 meetings with someone. And I sat down with this lady and honestly for me it didn't really work because she just spoke in this like language of questions. Like, but why do you think that is? Or, but how did that make you feel? And anyway, I left that feeling worse than I started. Like it gave me no new tools or anything to deal with it. And so that didn't work for me. And I was online and I could see a lot of the UFC fighters on Instagram, I could see they did this thing out west where they went to see this guy called Dave Wood, integrated training. And you'd see them like doing the underwater training in the pool and running up and down sand dunes. And I was like, I remember clicking on that one day and it said, calm under pressure, stress management. And I was like, that sounds kind of what I need. So I emailed Dave and he actually rang me back maybe that day, I can't quite remember. And we had a yarn. And I signed myself up to go to a 3-day intensive course with Dave out at Piha, just like a one-on-one thing. Just, I was like, we're just going to lean into this and just figure it out. And so I went out there and learned a lot about stress management and how that affects performance. So anyone that's like a high achiever or, you know, that's going for it in their area of skill, like you just need to treat yourself like an athlete almost. And, you know, we put our hearts and souls into these businesses, and the least it can do is pay you for some professional development to cope with these things, because, you know, a business can move fast and we don't necessarily have the skill set to handle everything until it happens to you. So we went out there and Dave gave me some new skills for to implement into my life, and that's really made a big difference. So in the mornings now, if I wake up about 5 o'clock and I'll be doing like focused breath work and some meditation, which honestly, if you said I'd be doing that last year, I'll be going, nah, mate, I don't do that stuff. That's a bit woo-woo. But I do that in the morning. When I get home from work, first thing I'll do is try and jump straight in the ice bath. That's a real physical, like, you're not now in work mode. You can now go and join your family and go into dad mode, because, man, it got to the point where I'd just be having these, like, you know, Sunday meltdowns because I didn't know what to do with myself because I wasn't in, like, work mode. And so I just slowed everything down, and I've really focused on health and well-being this year. And it's funny how it just, like, flows into the areas of your business as well. And, like, just things start clicking again, and, like, you start getting some wins on the board again, and it all just feels like you're in the right direction once again. So, like, if anyone's out there and kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed or maybe just a bit rinsed and you just need something to do, I'd probably be going out and signing up to the next Calm Under Pressure workshop out at Piha. It's the reason people fly over from all over the world to go see them. So,
yeah, I've seen some stuff. I think at the youth, the Israel Adesanya and Dan Hooker and all those guys, right? They always go and do that. And the pool training, is it the same guy? And so what are some of the, okay, so you do a lot of breath work. Tell me, what about breath work what's sort of the theory behind the breath work aspect?
So it's about bringing your, like, calming your nervous system back down through focused breathing. And, like, I guess, say you're in traffic and someone pulled out in front of you, you're real reactive and wound up, or you get like an invoice you weren't expecting or something, like, it's all just a stress response. And there's a small moment where you either, like, react, or you can take a second and then respond how you want to that situation. And so, you know, that maybe that's like your kid screaming at home, or, you know, your apprentice puts a scaffold pole through a nice finished cedar wall, or anything like that. It's all a stress response. And so the breathing and, say, the ice bath replicates, like, the ice bath will replicate a stress response, and you practice breathing through it and dealing with that stress and coming back down to a calmer state. And for me, that's really helped me in my business, because, I mean, building's stressful. Like, you know, everyone has those days where you're on the phone to someone, you've missed 3 calls, and, like, then you're trying to call them back, and then you miss another 2 calls, and you just literally just feel like throwing your phone out the window. And we can all relate to each other on that. And I think, like, implementing those strategies into your day goes a real long way when things are heating up.
Yeah, so I think that's very important, just kind of learning how to deal with the stress aspect of it. And then also, I guess, yeah, it's not about not wanting any stress in your life, because you got to have stress. If you're doing anything great, right, there's got to be stress. You're going to be put under stress. And I guess it's more about dealing with it rather than running away from it.
It's definitely not going to disappear. So it's being okay with it, but it's just learning how to manage it.
And when we talk about mental health, sometimes there's, I was talking in the last episode actually to Lee about mental health and talking about it, and versus, it's very nuanced and it's very unique to individual people. Around sometimes someone needs to talk about it, and then other times someone need to push, like walk it alone and walk through the challenge that they're at to get to the other side to become stronger. What are your sort of views on that?
Look, it's sort of like a rite of passage, I think, as well. And like, and not just building, but a lot of business owners, we've all got a journey to go through. And that's why we can all like talk to each other and relate on so many different levels, because we've all walked through the fire. And I think like that's what makes your character. And I think that like builds depth to you as a person. And I think like there's no way of getting around it. And like you've got to almost find a way to enjoy and embrace that as you go through it, because that's life. Like if you're always just thinking things are going to get good when I get to there, you're going to be really disappointed when you get there, because it's no different. Like what I mean is like, say, when I get a new ute, this is going to be cool. Like everything will be sweet. Or when I finally buy a house, like I'm going to feel so happy. Or, when you get things, and like I promise you when you get there, you won't feel any different, and you'll realize that the reward is actually what you learn through the journey and the struggle. So like it's good and bad though, but you need to learn how to manage it on the way through. Yeah.
You builders all go through the same stuff. You know what I mean? It's a lot of areas where you've gone through the same thing, a builder, down the road's gone through. And I'm interested, how many builders do you sort of catch up with on a regular basis to talk through bottlenecks, issues, things that, how do I, as simple as, do you have a good health and safety plan versus I'm getting sued, what do I do? How many builders do you catch up with and talk about these things?
Man, I've got probably like, let's say 4 or 5 builder mates that are in similar positions. But I've also got other business owner friends that I also talk to, because I've got quite a lot of common ground with them as well. The building industry is funny, because like I feel like leading up to now, everyone was really quick to like tear each other down. Whereas right now we should be like linking arms and, lifting each other up and sort of joining forces a lot more. There's so much value in chatting to these other building companies. And like friendships come out of it too. You'd be surprised, like someone you see on Instagram, you in different circumstances, you might be best mates. Like you've got so much in common, but you just don't know each other. And so like picking up the phone and giving someone a call, like it sounds a bit weird, but like you don't know what value you get out of it. Everyone's got something to teach you. And I think like there's something comforting about knowing someone else is in the trenches too, going through the same issues, or, maybe they've been through something you're just starting to go through. And like there's a lot of lessons to be learned from other people. Like I'm super excited about you getting some of these, like the real old chippies that are all about to quit because it's too hard. I want to see some like late 60s builders on this podcast so I can learn from them. I want to hear the guys that do multi-unit developments, and the guys that not just architectural builders, but I want to hear how everyone does everything. Like I think we can all kind of learn from each other on this podcast, which is a really super cool platform for that.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome, just chatting with everyone. And so, do you have a mentor?
Honestly, like I've always wanted one. I've never really found one. Like obviously, there's like the guys you do your apprenticeship with are always a type of mentor. I still speak to Richard, who I did my apprenticeship with, all the time, and it's kind of like a second dad almost in some ways. And but I've always struggled to find like a real successful chippy that's 30 years down the track who I can ring and be like, how did you do this, or how did you price that? I've never been able to find one. So I've always relied on like online content or books, or I've tried to find knowledge through the different avenues. Talking to people that might have a mentor like that. I think like, you know, don't get down in the dumps because if you don't have that person and you think other people do, because not everyone does.
Yeah, I found that over time in my life as well, where you might not have one mentor, but you can like, it's all like you just get little bits from everywhere, and it sort of makes up a virtual mentor in terms of like different people coming with different advice on things.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Well, there's like I think we made a joke before the podcast starts about like no one gave me the book on here's how you do everything perfectly when it happens to you in building. We're all figuring it out with, you know, the opportunities or the things that happen to us. We're all doing our best and, you know, making our way through this journey. But whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But we're doing the best we can, and, you know, it's just learning from it all, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess you'll figure out soon enough whether you did it right or wrong. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about your building business, RYSE. Is it, do you call it RYSE or RYSE Construction? Or how do you?
Oh, I just call it RYSE.
Yeah,
but
that's
RYSE
cool.
Construction. So we do mainly. We've been doing a lot of masonry, concrete construction, new builds.
Cool.
Before that, we were doing everything. Like we worked our way up through the bathroom renos and extensions and smaller new builds.
And that's how you just sort of like slowly but surely chipped your way up the
and
quality of work.
I think like what Sammy touched on the last podcast about doing a really good job when you first get your first opportunity to do it, and pulling it off goes a long way leading towards the next job. And prior to that, like I hadn't done lots of big concrete homes, like huge foundations, you know, masonry walls, concrete mid-floors, elevators, all these sort of things for a residential home that seem almost like a small commercial building sometimes. And so we're on our 5th concrete house in a row now. And that's just been our journey since sort of COVID. In regards to my business, we sort of, before COVID, we were doing a renovation out at Muriwai Beach. We're doing an extension in our Rimu Valley out in Riverhead, and then we were building 3 houses in Takapuna. So we had this all going at the same time when COVID hit. And for me, like, I was living life in fast forward. And, you know, I'm subscribing to all these softwares that are meant to solve all my issues and trying to offload tasks to different people and figuring out our process. And what I realized then is just because I was doing more, it didn't mean my business was more profitable or I was enjoying it, or like it looked cool on the outside and it's like, whoa, so busy, like they must be loving it. And honestly, I wasn't enjoying it. I was just like this fast forward demon. And so since COVID, I've scaled right back down now to one team, and we're just doing pretty much one project at a time. They typically overlap towards the end.
Cool.
Between handover and start.
How big is the team at the moment?
So we're just down to 5.
Cool.
So really small now, which is really cool going into a slowdown because there's just no stress on us. Like we've got plenty of work for us for this year, and we're just like can just focus on finishing off and handing over a really cool project while we sort of get the next one up and going. And for me, it's been really nice because you know, like I've heard you talk about like on the tools, off the tools quite a bit on this podcast. And like, it's interesting because there'll be people out there that think that some of us just sit in an office and do emails all day. And like some days that's all we do. But for me, like I still have an interest in being on site and developing a skill set for certain things. Like say you're pouring some real cool in situ concrete or doing an exposed ag drive or some real cool weatherboard feature, or you know, like I'm pumped to like go to site, be part of those things that interest me more, or you know, it might be earthworks and I feel like playing on a digger for a few days, and just like I kind of just jump in when things interest me now. So although I'm off the tools, I jump on all the time just because I'm interested in it.
Yeah,
and it really kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of fits our business, and I find it quite enjoyable still developing my skills as a builder. As well as being a business owner. Yeah,
like Lee that came on last week, he said that the same thing. where like it's not every builder's goal to build a company and now be an office guy. Like a lot of builders got into building because they enjoy being outside with the boys, building, creating something. Like you say, you just doing an in situ wall that's going to be like epic when it's finished, and you want to see what it looks like when you tear everything off and it exposes itself, and you're like, yeah, this looks sick. And there's like reasons why you got into it, right? And so I feel like a lot of, you could potentially lose all the fun and all the enjoyment out of your job if you don't do any of that stuff anymore. You might be more profitable, but...
Yeah. And I think like when you're not trying to like constantly find work for a big team, like it gives me the ability to do that.
Yeah.
I think when you run a smaller team like we do though, like you do definitely have to integrate a few extra things into your business to help with profit margins and making money. So, you know, I've heard the fancy term vertical integration. So, you know,
big words.
Big words, sound real businessy, eh? And like, I think when you're running a smaller team, it's really cool to think about like, what can I bring into my business that I can charge out to the next job that, you know, like say for example, trucks, earthworks, machinery, or maybe you go out and buy yourself a compactor and hire that out for the next decade, or mobile scaffold units or scaffolding, and all these little things that just increase your bottom line and pay themselves off fairly quickly, I think are worthwhile considering.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to be like semi-interested in it or regularly using it on your jobs for it to make sense. But I'd say to people, consider what you could use in your business, which, you know, it's not all about how many guys are this much per hour. And, you know, like I think there's a few different ways you can think about building.
Yeah. Has there been times where you've run your business where you've made like decisions for your ego and that you've kind of like regretted?
Yeah, I guess so. Like the thing is, like the building industry has so many big egos in it. Everyone's a bit of a know-it-all, and like navigating that is like part of the game. For me, I'm happy if everyone's the best builder in the world, as long as they're doing really nice work, and like I'm cool with that. But in terms of my ego, I think honestly I've been pretty good at parking it. And like, for example, we've had years where it seems like we're not making any money because I've just been reinvesting into the business for years, and then all of a sudden you have a massive year and it was all worth it. So it's funny how things kind of play out long term. And so I guess the ego stuff's, you know, I guess you've got to have a little bit of an ego to do this as well and build a company and have your name out on things or do all the social media stuff. But I think more so than ego, I think you've got to have a reason why. And, you know, I think in your early 20s, maybe that's like, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to make money. And then
boats and hoes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. And like, you know, that might be your big driver. And then you sort of get into your like mid-30s, late 30s, and then you're like, hold on, I don't care about money anymore. I just want to be like healthy and have time. And so it's funny, it changes over the years why you do things. And yeah, so I think ego is always there. You got to learn how to keep it in check and manage other people's. And you know, you can definitely spot a decent sized ego from a mile away. And so yeah.
What are the numbers that you look at that's important in your business? You know, people look at revenue, they look at their overheads, they look at profit, you know, per project, profit margin. What are sort of the numbers that you kind of keep a close eye on that's important?
I think like reconciling like your project costs as you're going through the project, through the different stages. You know, like years and years ago, you'd price something, whether it was you or a QS or whatever, and then you'd blitz through the slab or stand the frames or get the roof on, and then, but like, did you really go back and like see how much you actually spent on labor? Or like you went off a placemaker's quote initially, and how much did they actually charge you when you got through that process? Like, did you go off a QS linear meter rate, but then you actually bought way more than that to do that amount of linear meters of work? And like, just like reconciling your figures and real costs, I think is a real key one to not lose money. Yeah. I think like you can constantly have little wins, but it only takes one big loss to take a massive step backwards. Loss is a part of this, and you're all going to have one. I certainly have, but I think like tracking the cost is a real good one that kind of goes under the blanket a bit, because it's like if you're worried about the end result, and say you've priced a job and there's 50K profit at the end of it, you get to the end and you're like, oh, I haven't made any money. But you didn't know that before you got to the end. Like, you need to be tracking it the whole way through, knowing where, forecasting where you're at, and like you can do some value engineering. It's amazing what you can do when you're actually like actively value engineering on your jobs in terms of like what products can we use, like how can we do that more efficiently, where am I wasting money, where's my constant blowout. All pretty obvious once you start looking.
Yeah, and do you feel like you, in the earlier years, you didn't it was sort of more like put that under the carpet, or have you been pretty good since day one? No
way. I ignored it for years. Especially when it's just like you and an apprentice, it's just like life was too short. No time for that. And when you are 6 days a week on the tools, that is also really hard to do that in the evenings when you can't be bothered, or it's your day off on Sunday and you do want to have like some kind of life. So
yeah, for sure.
Like it just does get swept under the rug, but unfortunately you do need to make time for these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you've got a team of 5, you said now. So what's the crew mix on that? Do you qualified versus unqualified? What does that look like?
So mainly qualified. We've got one adult apprentice at the moment. We just actually got rid of one young apprentice recently who just wasn't working, and so at the moment just one adult apprentice. Yeah.
What's the difference between, I don't know if you've had enough experiences with that, but you probably have, but what's the difference between getting a young whippersnapper apprentice versus like more of like a mature apprentice coming through?
Both have pros and cons. Like a young guy, you can really mold how you want if they've got the right attitude. I'm all about attitude over natural ability. Because if someone's like made for it but then couldn't give two shits, then it's just painful. But someone who's keen to learn overall is what you want. The adult apprentices typically come with more responsibilities in their life, and so like they're in more of a rush to get through an apprenticeship.
Yeah. Whereas
the young guys, they're not as worried about quickly doing it in 3.5 years so I can earn this much money. They're just like, I'm going to be a builder one day. Just hanging with the boys and having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But managing a real green teenager's hard work.
Yeah. How do you cultivate good culture in your team? It's so important these days. Builders, and I mean, maybe less so than it was maybe a year or two ago, but builders are always fighting for good staff. And, they're like throwing out there, well, I'll give you a ute, a petrol card, a phone, whatever. And so they're kind of fighting for good staff, with financials or perks. But in the end of the day, you can't really beat a good culture where people don't want to leave, right? So how do you cultivate that?
So that's a real cool question. And I think, like, for me personally, it's with our guys, and I like to think that our guys are like building assassins when they get to the end of their apprenticeship, and like real high caliber chippies that are real super onto it, like sharp as a tack kind of builders that you can just let go and they take care of everything. But I think in terms of building culture long term with them through the years, it's like the boys knowing that they can come to you with anything, because they all go through life problems, and I think being there for them through all their hard times. I think obviously there's doing the cool things, like we've done bungee jumping, or up at Woodhill we did the tree adventures, or maybe it's having drinks or going whitewater rafting, or it's being there on a Friday at 6 p.m. in the pissing down rain, pouring 50 cubes of concrete with them soaking wet as well. Like for me, going through all of those things together really firms up like a cool culture in our company, and like a real tight group.
Yeah. And what's it like? Because you work with so much concrete. Like, I know when everyone when the builder's building a home, when you're doing the concrete pours, like one of the most stressful times because it's got to get it right, you know, and you see the builder like going back and forth, like looking all flustered. If your whole house is concrete, how flustered are you guys?
I mean, mate, I hate that call in the dark at 4:30 in the morning when everyone's like, "Are we pouring concrete today?" And you're like, "Mate, I can't even see outside either. I don't know if it's raining or not." Like we all get that same, anticipation with concrete pours. I think when it comes to concrete, you have to have someone standing back, being like the calm mind, watching what's going on site, directing the pumps, someone on, managing traffic and, guys watching what's going on. And I think, block walls and stuff are easy because it's just filling block work, but it's mainly the big like mid floors and slabs that I guess are the real touch and go ones. We've had ones where we've made, big barricades and tarps over garage slabs that, just all go to shit and starts raining. And we even did a driveway at the end of last year. This couldn't have been a sunnier day. It felt like a 30-degree day. We'd just finished placing the concrete. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is like a burn finished driveway, black oxide. And out of nowhere, on no reports, not Met Service or anything, comes this like torrential rain. And I don't know if you've ever seen like when it rains on black oxide, it kind of washes the colour and goes like white and a bit like caramel swirly looking. So we're out there like frantically trying to save. Like this is where I was thinking we're ripping this concrete up, and we just managed to save it. And it kind of actually made it like a real cool feature. But like, we all have these touch and go moments, and man, I feel the buzz like everyone. And I'm happy when it's over as well, though.
Yeah. The owner must have been stoked, being like, this is a very unique look. There's no other driveway quite like this one.
It's a one-off.
Yeah, it's a one-off. It must have been awesome. What does success mean to you?
So if you asked me that in my early 20s, I'd say someone who makes $1 million a year or something like that. And now success to me is, I'd say success is someone who you're a good person, you've got time in your life for friendships, and you've got a good marriage, or your kids are stoked to see you, your dog's pumped when you walk in the door, or like all those kind of small things are success for me now. I think money's not a big driver. It's more about those little things in life, and feeling strong and healthy, I think, is what really floats my boat these days.
Yeah. No, it's definitely... once you get a bit of perspective in life, you get a bit older and wiser, a few more grey hairs. Not you don't have that many grey hairs on your head at the moment. Your perspective definitely changes,
For sure.
And you kind of focus on different things.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 21, I wanted to own a private jet.
Cool.
And and now I couldn't be further from that. Like this seems like a headache now. Like I would never want to do that. That would be like a nightmare for me. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how, and also when you're young, you just have crazy ideas anyway. But
and it'll be different again next year.
Exactly, right? So 10 years.
That's just my answer today.
Yeah, exactly. You have a family?
Mm-hmm.
Wife, kids?
Mm-hmm. I have a wife and a daughter who's just turned 18 months.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. What's that been like?
Dude, it's been pretty full on. Like, I think about the last year and a half. So we were doing our own project at the same time as the new build we're doing, where the second my wife was pregnant, we picked our house up with Craig Walker house removals, spun it around and moved it over on the section we live in. And so we're at home, wife's like pregnant as, we've got no hot water, no power, no internet, no bedrooms, like nothing. And so we'd sort of had been living through a reno whilst going through that, then having a newborn through that. And, you got the boys outside belting some weatherboards on or making a noise while you got a baby sleeping in the room next to them. And like, it's just been a roller coaster trying to figure out how to be a dad, a business owner, and still have like your own identity too. Like I used to be able to like go surfing all the time, and it's like doesn't happen. But it's just funny kind of learning how to juggle everything. So yeah, a little family, but
Yeah. And how are there any sort of practical aspects that you bring in? I mean, I know you mentioned the ice bath earlier as well. But any other aspects that you've kind of brought in that works quite practically in terms of navigating between business and family and like keeping everyone happy?
oh look, like I try my best, like the next bloke, but it's different for everyone. I think for me, it's taken a long time to make the switch as I walk in the door and not bring work home with me, not have my Sunday meltdowns, and just to get out of work mode. Like, and we all know what it's like when you're sort of like laying on the couch and your wife will be talking to you and you're thinking, I wonder how long this will take to do that, or I need to email that person. And like, you know, like to switch off from that is hard. And like, I envy the people that can just switch it off and they don't care. But like, I really care about all those things. And like, it's taken me a long time to learn how to just mellow out a bit with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely, I think they call it like mind elasticity or something, where it is like a muscle that you can get better at in terms of being able to switch from one thing to another seamlessly and then leave that thing behind.
Yeah. I'd recommend not living in a reno though, because like you come home from a building site to another building site and you're supposed to turn off your builder's brain, and it's just like, good luck. Because you're just looking, you're like, that's right, that's me this weekend, or I need to paint that. Or
can we make a crazy call and say that people should definitely, if they're pregnant with their first child, should not be thinking about
don't do it.
Their house.
Don't do it, guys.
Cool, man. We asked the internet for some questions for this episode today. So I had probably have about 6 questions that's come in. Okay. Nothing too dodgy or anything like that.
I'm surprised my mates haven't hit you with the world's most rude questions, but let's see.
Oh, they'll probably be feeling sensible. This one's from Fearless Tours. Do you still collect rusty nails?
Yes.
Is there a story behind that, or is it just...
I have no idea what he's talking about.
All right. Willis G says, there's obviously like a stupid one, the real way to approach architectural builds.
So approaching architectural builds is interesting because like it's just like any other house, but it's got some funky angles, some funky cantilevers, and some interesting material selections, probably more expensive per meter. But where the big difference is, I think, in architectural homes is the fit out, because all of a sudden you get to this point where you have to throw away the building consent plans, and you now have this new set of plans that's 3 times as thick called the interior fit out drawings. And this now becomes your sole purpose in life is just to try and understand how all this goes together and all the different elevations of every room. And so I think the big difference is, in the fit out and understanding the interior fit out process and how all the trades come together and how all the materials can come together. Like, for example, the house we're building at the moment, the architects are overseas. And some of the things they suggest aren't even available in the country. Just things you don't get here, or things that don't meet our building code. And like, so you're on Zoom meetings trying to talk through these situations and come up with a replacement or figure out how to get that thing from Malaysia to New Zealand as quickly as possible, or that type of door from Australia, or, like all sorts of problems like that. So I think like, it's like any other house, except for there's just a lot more nitty-gritty detail when it comes to the interior, and I'm talking like down to the millimeter.
Yeah, and you have to be a lot more flexible in terms of working with the architect and people making changes, and that window actually needs to move a little bit that way so we can capture that view, that sort of thing. Do you guys work with a lot of variations like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's inevitable. I think that's on most jobs now anyway, but like, you have to be flexible with that sort of stuff. And,
right.
And I think most builders are. I think you've got to kind of just got to roll the sleeves up and like just get real into it and just like kind of be like, right, let's do this. I'm into this. Like, yes, it's hard and I have no idea how that is meant to work out, but when I get to that, you're going to pull it off. And I think like having that attitude of like, let's do this, it really goes a long way.
Awesome. Dines93, this is the internet. What's the best way to handle an injury at work from both sides of the question, as in like the employee and employer?
Far out. Well, I guess that depends on the injury. Like, for for example, I was demoing a little garage last year, and it was the end of the day, and we'd just cleaned this garage out, and I slid my fingers down this garage door. It was one of those old ones that you sort of like push and then it goes boom on the ground, and somehow, as I was sliding my fingers down at the end of the day, they both got jammed in between the door sections and broke both my fingers. And so I was walking around with my hand taped up for ages while the bones healed, and both the nails come off and all that sort of jazz, which as a builder is not like ideal. So like you got to come up with a new way to do things because you got your arm strapped to your chest. And so I think where it's possible to work, your boss most of the time will come up with a way for you to work. I don't know any guys that wouldn't find something for them to do, because there's always something someone could be doing. Just it's going to be a reduced scope of work. Like, you're not going to be climbing up and down scaffold with a broken leg. But I guess it just depends. I'd go to your boss with a sort of like a proactive kind of thought, like, man, I'm totally useless now for that, but I could do this. Like, what do you reckon? Like, how can I help? Like, so I guess that's all you can do. I mean, if you've got two broken legs, like, mate, just take the ACC and have a holiday, because you won't be doing too much at that point. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good answer. Iconic Build ask best building software they use and what for. Yeah. So what sort of software do you use?
So we're running Builder Price at the moment, and like honestly, I reckon we're like every other building company in terms of like we all use these software to 80%. Like we never pull them off 100% of what they can do. No different to the other guys that have been on. We're sort of running 2 or 3 different software for like scheduling and project planning. I'm running Team Gantt. We do Builder Price for like timesheets, invoicing and stuff, because it ties into your Xero nicely. Mm-hmm. I think that's been really good.
Does that work for like payroll as well?
We use Smartly for payroll, cool. Which I think every chippy should be doing, because like...
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would be spending time on the payroll if they can just... It's like $80 a month or something.
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. I know there's like PaySource as well. There's a few of them around. Anthony Murhi asked, also, what are some systems builders are implementing to ensure trades are self-sufficient? And he's got another one as well, just like, what's the best way to manage trades off-site? Can't run 1+ job if I have to babysit the tradesman. So I guess those are the same sort of questions.
Yeah, I get it. So I think like over time you get subcontractors that do a really good job and you build a relationship with. Sometimes it takes a few projects to iron out the kinks. I think like having a good relationship with people that do a really good job make a big difference. Like if you get in a new contractor that you've never met before, you actually just have to keep a closer eye on them. You've got to have your own quality controls in place and have like an onto it site foreman who's also watching if you're not there. And I think like real sharp scheduling in terms of timing and when you want them on site and when they have to be done by, and kind of as much planning before they make it to site goes a long way to sort of avoid hold-ups. There's always some stuff like a custom flashing that has to be made once something's in place or once a cladding's done, so you can't get around that. But onto it site foreman, good scheduling beforehand, and building up a relationship with onto it subbies that just ultimately make your business look better. Because,
helps there with continuity, if you use the same guys over and over.
Yeah.
So every week I try to figure out like, okay, because I don't know that much about the timber industry. I know Aboto's a cool brand and they're a cool company dealing with them, and they don't want me to like do ad reads or anything like that. They just want to like let me do whatever I want to do. So every week I learn something new about the timber industry, and I've learned what I've learned this week is that a lot of timber suppliers actually use, a couple of things. They use they use the same coating on like a whole bunch of array of different products, which sometimes it's not quite the right coating for the right timber. Where Bodo, they really, through their research and development, they do a lot of testing and making sure that they get the right coatings that matches up with the right timber obviously, so it performs better and it lasts longer and that sort of thing. So that's kind of cool that they do that. And then the other aspect is which a lot of clients I think will be asking for moving forward as well as the chemicals. We have so many chemicals in our day-to-day lives. The other day I heard that even like Band-Aids have like forever chemicals in them. Put a
Really?
Band-Aid on you and the chemicals stay there forever.
Mate, I mean, but like even sitting in this chair for too long is bad for you. Like, what isn't now? I feel like everything's trying to kill me.
Exactly.
From the moment I wake up, it's like death coming at you from every angle.
Yeah. So, so like Aboda Timber as well. Sounds like I'm doing an ad now, like an infomercial. But their timber doesn't have any chemicals. So, if that's something that's important to clients, but it's probably something to talk about with builders as well. It makes the client know that, this builder actually listened to me, because when I talk to them about what's important to me, was, I have young kids, they're going to be crawling on my deck, licking the deck and stuff like that. We have a young family, and then the builder came back and said, hey, I think you should be using this product because there's no chemicals actually in this decking timber or whatever, right? So that's another way as well that builders can, make themselves look better to their clients, and then in the end, it just helps everyone kind of get the project over the line and do a better job.
I think
for
it
the
falls
client.
back into like trying to always do the right thing for people, which we all should be doing anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So we this has gone so fast now, but we do normally some rapid fire questions at the end.
Okay.
You happy to do that?
Go for it.
Cool. You can just pass if you don't know the answer, but but it's been really fun having you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good,
Good
man.
to be here.
Okay, cool. So how big is your team?
6.
What's your crew mix?
90% qualified builders.
Cool. How many projects did you complete last year?
2.
Cool. What's your turnover range? Under 1 mil, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 plus.
We're in 1 to 3.
Cool. What's the lowest gross profit margin building companies should be aiming for?
20%.
And what's that in terms of people don't understand markup and margin, eh? It's kind of like the two different things that people get stumbled on.
Yeah,
eh?
I think
what's
a lot
the difference between
of
margin
guys
and
aren't
markup?
even like putting. One thing I've noticed is guys aren't putting their markup on their own labour as well. They just do it on subbies or materials. But my 2 cents is you put it over everything, the whole project. So that's a big key learning curve if no one's doing that. I think the stuff I touched on earlier, like integrating different things you can sell from your business and charge to the client on your projects, and like, to be honest, you can do a really good rate for them, so it actually works out better for the client.
Yeah.
So I think little things like that, and you know, definitely make a big impact.
Yeah. That's good advice. Free quote or paid quote?
Right now, I'd say free. You're competing against so many guys that will do it for free. Like, I don't think clients will pay for them right now.
Yeah. Project management software or spreadsheets?
You need both.
Yeah. EV or petrol head?
Petrol or diesel.
Classic rock or metalhead?
Classic rock.
Jock or hippie?
Hippie.
Are you too mean or too nice to your staff?
Too nice.
Are you an extrovert or an introvert?
I reckon I'm an extroverted introvert. I feel like I can be both. I can be quite quiet or I can be quite out there. So just depends what day of the week you catch me on, Brad.
Cool. Motocross or fishing?
Surfing.
Nice. Favorite business or non-business book?
Business book. I have been listening to a few this year, and the Cam Hayes one was really good.
Cool.
Cameron Hayes.
Haynes?
Haynes, yeah.
Haynes? Cam Haynes, the runner? And
the bow hunting marathon
yeah.
runner. Yeah.
He's a cool dude, eh?
His book is awesome.
Yeah, what's the name? You remember?
No, I can't remember the name of it now, but
Yeah.
I listened to that earlier this year, and that was really good.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. I watch his podcasts and videos and stuff. I appreciate you also say listening to. Who reads books these days anymore? Just my wife.
Mate, if I read it, it would take me like a year.
Yeah. Who's your business or life hero?
I'd say my mum's a bit of a hero, and business, I would say, what's that guy that did Under Armour and now he just has like a beer company?
Can't remember his name, but I know who you're
He's
talking
real
about.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I like him.
What's your favourite hobby?
Surfing.
Cool. Are you a longboard or shortboard guy?
Depends what the waves are doing, but shortboard mainly.
Okay, cool. What's an interesting fact not many people know about you?
I'd say that somehow I still manage to put my T-shirts on backwards every day. You get up at 5 in the morning, it's pitch black, and there's like a 50-50 chance it's on the right way, and somehow 95% of the time it's backwards. I don't know why.
Okay, that's interesting. Are you alpha or beta?
Alpha.
Wine or whiskey?
Craft beer.
Nice. Makita, DeWalt, or Milwaukee?
Makita in general. A couple of Milwaukee stuff's awesome, and a couple of it's rubbish.
Yeah.
And then there's some like good DeWalt stuff, like your table saw and droppies are pretty unbeatable. So I feel like there's a bit of a spread going on right now. Hey?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I thought people were a bit more loyal than that, but that's good. A little Ryobi on the weekend.
Yeah.
Glass half empty or half full?
Half full, man.
Awesome. Do you think more about the past or about the future?
Future.
Awesome. What was your favorite part about this podcast today?
I think like my favorite part is that we've got a platform that we can be real about stuff in the building industry. We all are going to do things differently. It's not right or wrong. It's just how we've done it with what we've been handed. And I think like for builders to be able to more openly talk about stuff and not just say like, oh, everything's perfect and everything goes to plan. Like we can talk about the real shit and like literally just say how it is on this platform, I think is really cool. So yeah, my favorite part's probably just being part of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah. Did you have fun?
Oh, it's good. It's real good.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on today.
Cheers,
and yeah, we'll have you on again in the future, no doubt.
Cheers. Thank you.
Mate.